How can a manufacturer be so cunning? To try a certain feature, you need to wear the watch both day and night for 3 weeks. How is that possible? A watch that doesn't show the time, where you raise your hand, look at it, and can't see what time it is? It's all in order here. What can I say? I just feel overwhelmed. I am simply thrilled. And this is how we kick off the review of the Forerunner 965 and Forerunner 265 watches from Garmin. If you have ever looked at the range of Garmin watches, you know that it is simply vast, and it seems almost impossible to choose the right one for yourself. The range of features is simply insane, and the variety of designs and executions is truly staggering. The price can easily vary by just adding a 0 at the end. Well, perhaps this video will serve as a certain starting point for you, as the Forerunner watches currently offered by the company have turned out to be very versatile. And with the new firmware that was released just a couple of days before the filming of this video, they received a few nice additions that were clearly lacking before. But I will discuss everything in order, starting with the design and execution, and how the watches have performed after almost 3 months of using both models. Perhaps I am not the only one among those who have already embraced the trend of top manufacturers and no longer marvel at the simplicity of the packaging and sets of quite expensive devices. Very simple grey boxes, and inside there is nothing but a cable and some papers. The cable is unique, so it's better to take care of it and not lose it, as all Garmin accessories are quite expensive when purchased separately. Both watches feature a very similar design, except that the Forerunner 965 model is larger and has a bigger display. And I should also add that there is an even smaller version of the 265 model with the letter S, which obviously stands for small. Here on the screen is a comparison of the display sizes by diagonal and resolution, so we don't have to say a million different numbers out loud. There is also a noticeable difference in design, the titanium bezel and metal buttons. It's a micro edition of premium materials, but I like it. And by the end of this video, you will understand how much I like it. By the way, the buttons are also different in terms of markings. On the Forerunner 965, the main button, for starting an activity, features a triangular Garmin symbol, while the other buttons have no markings at all. Well, for some reason, they decided to save on labels, and on the Forerunner 965, the button functions are explained with symbols. Well, of course, indeed, it's not a very significant difference. The Forerunner 965 is quite a large watch. Personally, I like it. I even think it suits me, but some people might not like it. I've even encountered someone who calls it a compass because of its enormous size. Pay attention to this, especially if you are choosing and hesitating about the size. The standard version of the Forerunner 265 is also a sizable watch, and it is even referred to as large in the app. I think the Forerunner 265 model is more balanced and will be more versatile in size, as it fits both a large wrist and a delicate, slender hand. Moreover, it even has 2 variations in screen diagonal. The main thing is to choose your color, and it's important to note that the smaller models also have slightly less battery life. Later in the review, we will discuss this in more detail with examples. Both models have moisture protection, and the watches can track workouts, swimming, and triathlons. I swam with the Forerunner 965 model in open water, as you can see. It is still working, nothing happened to it, everything is fine. By the way, during and after swimming, droplets slide off the glass very well, indicating a good oleophobic coating. A protective case is necessary because sometimes it's quicker to rinse them under the tap after activities than to try wiping them with a cloth. As always in my videos, I can't stress enough that you shouldn't immerse your gadgets in hot water if you want them to last as long as possible. Considering that Garmin watches remind me of a Swiss Army knife with a multitude of functions, it is not surprising that the buttons on the watches have additional features. For example, the top left button typically activates or deactivates the screen. If you hold it, it opens a quick access menu to the list of features. These features can be customized personally. And if you hold this same button for a long time, the emergency assistance function will be activated. Contact numbers are added in the app for the watch. The 2 lower buttons on the left actually scroll the menu up and down, or for example zoom and pan the maps, but they also have additional functions. The middle button on the left, when held, leads to the watch settings. The bottom button on the left provides access to music control. Music can be played from the watch's internal storage or from the Spotify app on the watch. Or you can simply control the music playing on your smartphone. And that's not all, as the user can assign functions or apps to button combinations. In other words, you can customize them based on what you use most frequently. There can even be more than one such combination. A few words should be said separately about Spotify. If you have a premium subscription, you will be able to download music tracks or podcasts directly to the watch. The app is the official one from Spotify and can be downloaded from the Garmin App Store. Each time the watches are synchronized, playlists are automatically updated through the built-in feature. Additionally, you can directly connect wireless headphones to the watches and go for a run or any other workout with music, even if you don't have your smartphone on hand. The watches use different types of protective glass, by the way. The 265 models have Gorilla Glass 3, while the 965 models feature the more advanced Gorilla Glass DX. It's quite funny, but you might be able to see it. Now I will try to show you. I managed to slightly scratch the model 965. The scratch is very minor and runs along the edge of the glass and around the bezel, and there are also many microscopic scratches that can be noticed. The glass is coated with an oleophobic layer, water drains off it well, but fingerprints accumulate quite quickly and are visible. It's good that probably all the functions of the watches can be used even with just the buttons. The sensor doesn't even have to be used at all. And for each type of activity, the activation of the touchscreen can be configured separately. For example, it is definitely not needed for swimming, and by default, it is turned off. However, for cycling or running, someone might want to activate the touchscreen, and that is possible. These are the very Garmin models in which the company began to use full-color AMOLED displays. Juicy, bright, and overall very high quality. Moreover, there is also support for an always-on display. And what is even more important, even with the always-on display, the watches have really great battery life. I'm already jumping ahead to the battery life section where I will talk about it. This is worth noting separately. As for the display, as I mentioned, it is high quality and bright, and it supports automatic brightness. The watches also feature a night mode and a do not disturb mode. With a recent update, a redshift mode has been introduced, which is more comfortable for the eyes in the evening and at night. Additionally, users can now choose from several different colors for the simplified night display. If you don't use the always-on display, the screen can activate by raising your hand. I want to say that these watches probably activate more responsively than any other smartwatches I've tested before. Here, it works instantly. You never have to wait. Raise your hand, and you see the data. This also indicates that there are super-sensitive sensors that detect movement. Apparently these are accelerometers, and unfortunately there is no more precise information about them. The watch straps are very comfortable and successful in two main aspects. Firstly, they are lightweight and soft. This is very important as it is better for the owner to wear such watches almost constantly so that they can track the state of the body, rest, load, stress, and so on. In this case, a thick, bulky strap would be extremely uncomfortable. And secondly, there are just so many holes here that anyone can adjust the strap to be as comfortable as possible. Unfortunately, this is not a more convenient quick-fit type strap. These are straps that could be removed entirely without any tools. They are really cool, but they don't come with a strap. So if you want even more comfort, you'll have to buy a new strap for the new watch for $50. However, the strap that comes with it is also very comfortable, lightweight, and pleasant to use. On the underside that touches the wrist, the watches have pulse and oximetry sensors. It is even visible that they sometimes glow red and sometimes green. Interestingly, these models use Garmin's conditionally 4th generation sensors. There are already models that utilize newer 5th generation sensors, such as the Venue 3 models. However, according to reviews, the difference in usage is practically imperceptible. Even the 4th generation sensors collect pulse data and other metrics with quite high accuracy. Of course, for the highest accuracy of pulse readings, it is better to purchase external sensors, and both watches are compatible with such sensors. At the bottom, there seems to be a temperature sensor, and next to it is the charging port. By the way, the cable seems to lock into it. The charging here is indeed fast. You can even get about half of the watch's charge back in just half an hour before a workout. This is very important and convenient, and a full charge takes about 2 hours. The watches do not actually have full-fledged speakers, but they do have a signal, a beeper, and vibration. The vibration here is great, clear, without any annoying shaking. Of course, both watches can display incoming messages from apps and notify about calls. The recent update added the ability to upload images and messages directly to the watch. This is cool and enhances the feeling of using a smartwatch on your wrist. By the way, emotions in messages on the watches are displayed smoothly, unlike what can sometimes happen with other manufacturers. Calls can be declined and accepted using the watches. You cannot respond directly from the watches because there is no built-in microphone or full-fledged speaker, and even if you connect Bluetooth headphones to the watches, you still won't be able to answer a call from the watch. With the headphones connected to the smartphone, you can start a conversation with just one tap on the watch. And this can also be done using just the buttons while wearing gloves, which is important in the cold. Since we are already talking about connectivity, let's say a few words about the wireless and other interfaces of the watches. Of course, both work with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and they have NFC and support for Garmin Pay, which means that purchasing in stores using the watch instead of a bank card can be important for some, and maybe even for many. Both watches also likely support all available navigation systems. At the beginning of workouts, the GPS signal is very responsive. I probably never expected more than half a minute. It's really cool that both watches can automatically determine your location, and thus they can save more energy so that the user can keep their watch in working condition on their wrist for a longer time. By the way, for absolutely every workout, you can choose the location system settings separately. For example, I have set the maximum location accuracy for running and cycling on both watches, so the watches consume more energy during workouts, but this way the data is more accurate. This is especially important at high speeds, for example, during cycling training. With the available interfaces on the Garmin watches, you can connect an incredible number of external wireless accessories. I never even suspected that such a thing was possible and that the imagination of the developers could go in that direction. These can be heart rate monitors, pedometers, in short, anything related to running and cycling, and not just that. There are quite unexpected things, like a mount for the watch to attach to a bicycle for use as a bike computer, or for example a bike light. In short, as a newcomer to this topic, I am still amazed by the ingenuity of Garmin. When it comes to typical smartphone functions, the first thing that comes to mind is receiving messages from smartphone apps on the watch. However, there is a noticeable difference awaiting owners of different smartphones. Only on Android will there be the option to even reply to messages directly from the watch using saved templates. Unfortunately, this feature is not available on iPhone. Apps, watch faces, and widgets can be installed on the watches in two ways: directly from a smartphone using the Garmin Connect IQ app or through a computer. You need to install the Garmin Express program. Through it, you can also install and update maps for the Model 965, and of course, update the firmware of the watches. As for the watch faces, I really like the native watch faces from Garmin. They look great and vibrant. They are easily customizable and many of them are functional. I installed third-party watch faces. I didn't really like them. If you happen to have your favorites, please share in the comments what makes them great and useful. A different app is used for synchronizing the watches than for installing apps. This is Garmin Connect. It is very feature-rich and not only collects data on training, fitness, sleep, recovery, stress, and more, but also allows for customizing the watch. For example, you can change the units of measurement, customize individual workouts, and work with the location tracking systems. In short, you can fully manage the watches right here. But that's not all, as this app also serves as a social network from Garmin, where you can share your workouts and track your friends' progress. Additionally, you can find ready-made training programs for several types of sports here. For example, I completed a training course for a half marathon here, and in the fall, I participated and improved my half marathon time by more than 10 minutes. The truth is, I am currently sick, so instead of runs on the watch, I only have walks to the pharmacy for a supply of medicine. I am very glad that this does not prevent me from sharing this review with you. Let's continue. If you look at these watches purely as smart devices, you will hardly find any smooth animations while scrolling through the interface, and in general, there are very few animations or any moving graphics in the interface, and it is clear that this has been intentionally designed to provide the user with the maximum amount of battery life for this device. I was truly impressed by the battery life of these watches. After all, by default, you never expect to get up to 6 days of battery life from a smartwatch with very active use, especially with an hour of training every day, all while using a constantly active display. I am currently talking about the Model 965. Under similar conditions, the Model 265, with daily training and active use, including the always-on display feature, provides approximately 4 full days of usage. But here you can achieve significantly higher metrics by activating the display with a gesture, touch, or button press. Moreover, the battery life of the watches can be significantly extended by using different location tracking settings during workouts or by switching the watch to power-saving mode if needed. One important thing is that with both models, you can confidently rely on any active use throughout the entire day in bright sunlight with the always-on display. Therefore, they are excellent for long activities such as hiking or triathlons. My record is approximately 9 hours of tracking bike rides, with nearly 6.5 hours in motion covering a distance of about 140 kilometers. And of course, the issue of the watch running out of battery was not even close to being discussed. Typically, you expect that a standard smartwatch is very rarely, and most likely not at all, capable of such performance. Let's take a look at the watch menu and see what is available here. By the way, your menu may look completely different as it is customizable. So, if you swipe up and down, you can navigate through the functions, or you can do the same using the 2 buttons on the left, the middle, and the bottom one. In the menu, you can find a compass. An altimeter, by the way, it can only be calibrated before each workout on the Model 965. A barometer, heart rate data, blood oxygen saturation, stress levels, temperature. I think it refers to skin temperature. And in short, it can only be seen in the menu on the Model 965, although the Model 265 also measures it. Steps, floors climbed in a day, detailed sleep metrics after a recent update, and even metrics for daytime sleep are available. The body battery indicator. This is a proprietary metric from Garmin. You can see the energy level and its expenditure throughout the day. There is also a graph available. Additionally, you can view the minutes of activity and the daily activity goal in minutes. Calories and a detailed report on them are available. By the way, calories and some other metrics are accessible directly from the main screen. Touch it, hold it, and you move on to the report for each metric. A small digression. These watches consistently and independently calculate the number of calories burned throughout the day. And sometimes they even count so accurately, down to a few calories, which really evokes a huge respect. Such stability in the calculations. These watches can also automatically calculate the remaining recovery time during intense workouts. For example, on one of them, I start a running workout and begin to run. After about 6 to 4 kilometers, a message will appear on another watch indicating that due to high loads, the recovery time has been increased. Unfortunately, I couldn't capture this message on video, but I was very impressed that the watches can calculate recovery time so accurately. And this only confirms that they monitor the user's well-being and calculate it very intelligently. There is also a breathing feature. Only the Model 965 has an acclimatization indicator for altitude. My metric is not active because I haven't trained with this Garmin watch at the necessary altitudes to activate this feature. In the regular running mode, the watches can calculate acclimatization to heat. To be honest, mine is very low. On hot days it was around 30% or even less. By the way, acclimatization is not the only function that works only under certain conditions here. On both models, the heart rate variability metric is activated only after 3 weeks of use. Just imagine, 3 weeks. And Garmin is very clever here, as you have to go through a 2-week return threshold if you don't like the product in order to try this feature for yourself. But it's really worth it. If you haven't looked up what heart rate variability is, be sure to Google it. This is very interesting and truly useful in training. For example, right now I am sick and not sleeping well, and the indicator is clearly outside the normal range, which completely corresponds to my condition. It is also very useful that the watches can calculate running power without additional sensors, as this metric is not always available in other similar devices. The watches have a weather app that is very informative, providing comprehensive information. However, there is a very radical difference between the two models, as the Model 265 is simply for viewing the weather. And in the Model 965, this is a mega useful feature. With the ability to view the weather on the map, it's not just about temperature, but also wind speed and other information. All these metrics can also be viewed hourly, and users can even enable automatic hourly scrolling of changing weather conditions, meaning they can play back the weather on the map. So the native weather app on the Forerunner 965 is simply amazing. Besides the heart rate variability, I also have a running readiness indicator for workouts. If you go inside, there is detailed information about VO2 max. This is a measure of maximum blood oxygen saturation, but essentially it is an indicator of endurance. The higher it is, the better. Here you can also see an estimated forecast for better performance over 5 to 10 kilometers in a half marathon and marathon. There is also a direct indicator of training status. Inside, we see that this is a certain summary. It includes VO2 max, heart rate variability, and the indicator for high-intensity short workouts. Additionally, there is a focus on the load with a graph. Inside, there is also detailed information about heart rate variability. And separately, there is the overall readiness for training. Here, the readiness scores and the level of factors affecting this indicator are presented. It is immediately clear what needs to be worked on for better readiness. More sleep, more short, high-intensity workouts, and important heart rate variability, or simply getting more sleep. In fact, these watches are useful not only because they collect a lot of data about the user's physical metrics, but also because they analyze these metrics directly on board. And right on your wrist, you can see a continuous analysis of your data, with quite specific conclusions or even recommendations. Yes, it is about recommendations, as the watch not only provides general insights for each day but also suggests activities. Since this is still a watch designed for runners, judging by the name of the line, the button that corresponds to the training menu may also lead to recommended workouts. Here is what the watch recommends for me today. For example, right on the watch there is a huge selection of workouts, not just for running or triathlon. If you buy a watch, you may not find some workouts. Don't be alarmed, this list can be customized, and yours may look completely different. In addition, you can create your own completely new workout in the Connect app and upload it to your watch. I created a strength training workout this way. Everything is incredibly flexible to customize. It may be that not all movements, like mine with dumbbells, can be found in the list, but with a little effort you can build exactly what you need. With repetitions, exercises, and rest, I was really impressed that such a feature could be implemented. There is also a virtual coach in the app. Unfortunately, there aren't many courses or training programs available here, and for cycling workouts, external power sensors seem to be required. However, I was very pleased that these programs exist, and they will definitely be very useful for beginners. And finally, what is the radical difference between the models? Because if you just look at them, you might think that the difference is simply in size and a slightly more premium finish, reminding you of the titanium bezel and metal buttons. Well, there is more memory. The Model 965 has 32 gigabytes of built-in storage, while the Model 265 has 8. Okay, there are also different display resolutions and various protective glass, and that seems to be it, but not really. Only the Model 965 has built-in maps and accordingly the ability for full autonomous navigation even without a smartphone. Here, you can preset points by simply entering the coordinates of a specific location with a name and navigate to them using the watch. I repeat, only the watch itself. Although some navigation features are available even in the Model 265, it can guide you along a preset route and backtrack. This means that if you run or cycle into an unfamiliar place during your workout, you can simply activate the backtrack feature and move straight back or follow your chosen track. You can do the same with the Model 965, but you will see your movement on a full map of the city or a forest trail, regardless. Additionally, only in the Model 965 are there even trail routes, ski resort lifts, and tips about upcoming route branches. And all this data is constantly updated by the manufacturer. By the way, it's a bit funny, as the navigation feature in the watches is located in the training section. The Model 265, just like the Model 965, can open route files in GPX format. It will guide you along the route, but again, not with a map, just with a track. It's incredibly cool that the watches not only guide you during navigation, but also predict your arrival time based on your current speed. Again, I will repeat. With the Model 965 you will see your movement on a full map, while with the use of the Model 265 you will only get a view of the track at the beginning and arrows indicating the direction of movement during the activity. By the way, I uploaded my locations and routes to the watches through the Explore app, but there are several options for uploading routes and other navigation features. If you are interested in this topic, please write in the comments and I will make a separate video on how to upload routes or waypoints for navigation here. One thing I didn't mention is the pretty cool synchronization with the Strava app. It works quickly and reliably. You can even use live segments if you have Strava Premium. And you can create links for live track with these Garmin watches. Of course, you should also have your smartphone with you, as the watches do not have LTE. A very interesting feature is that in the Garmin Connect app you can check your fitness age. This app is specifically designed for you to calculate based on the number of your physical activities and your physical metrics. Such a conditional indicator as fitness age is very pleasant to see in the app when it is almost 10 years younger than your actual age. So here, so to speak, Garmin has really pleased me. Just for this, it would have been worth buying this watch. He is really smart. Thank you. And this is one of my favorite features of the watches, the morning report. Here, information about training readiness, weather, sleep quality, training tips, and sometimes even general advice or encouragement is automatically generated. Now let's go over the negatives because they are definitely present here. One thing I didn't like about the watches is the somewhat clumsy organization of the menu and workouts. What also annoyed me was that the watches do not display the time continuously during workouts by default. So, understand me correctly. I know that workouts need to be planned in advance, and that you shouldn't constantly think about what time it is during the workout. But let's be honest, even if you are a very serious athlete, wouldn't it be a bit of a hindrance to see the time displayed in small letters or numbers somewhere in the corner of the screen, in an insignificant spot on the watch? I don't know, it seems unclear to me. And I'm not sure if you would agree with me. Most likely this can be resolved with some third-party widgets or additional settings that need to be tinkered with and figured out. I just don't understand this feature where you have to tap something to see the watch. Why is that? I don't know. These are my small unprofessional complaints, of course, because otherwise, for me, these watches are almost perfect. And I will keep this model 965 for myself, as it is essentially the flagship watch from Garmin. This is essentially a premium watch, like a Phoenix, but in a simpler execution, as I mentioned. The Model 265 is also a really cool choice, especially from a pragmatic point of view, as you will get a slightly simpler watch with a more basic case without metal and built-in maps, but it is still very well equipped.